why doesn't Thumbelina have wings? In the original story, she is a tiny little girl who gets dragged on, we'll call it an adventure, and at the end, she meets a flower fairy prince. He is very similar to her, but he does have wings. He is a fairy. So why doesn't Thumbelina, if everything else is pretty much in the same vibe, why doesn't she have wings? Why can't she fly? In my story, Thumbelina Falls, a retelling of Thumbelina, I give a very specific reason. She is actually a water fairy. So she is a fairy, and she's the most powerful fairy of them all. She controls the water. And because of this, she had her wings removed, and she was sent into hiding when she was a small child, because all of the kingdoms are vying to get control of her kingdom and her powers. So she was sent into safety. It's very much along the lines of like a Sleeping Beauty story where she was sent into hiding to avoid the curse. Thumbelina here is going to be sent into hiding to avoid really bad things happening to her and having her powers taken away from her. So in my story, she is a fairy. She was born with those wings. She had those wings, and they were stripped from her in order to protect her. So now as she's growing up, she does not know she is a fairy. She does not know she once had wings, but she kind of has, later on in the story, you can kind of look back and track where she had thoughts and feelings, maybe some phantom-y things going on where we can track that she, of course, is a fairy. Of course that makes sense. Of course she's doing this and that, and she's behaving this way, even though she doesn't have wings, because she is always meant to be a fairy. She just had them removed to protect her. And so we've got a story where we have a girl who's a fairy that doesn't know she's a fairy. She has certain behaviors that she doesn't understand, and she has to work toward learning that she once had wings. And so inside of this story, we go on this journey with our Thumbelina, who is acting like just a small girl instead of a fairy, and the biggest, most important fairy of them all. And so we see this character arc and this trajectory of how she is running from the toads and the other creatures that are out to get her, the kingdoms that are vying for her attention to lock her up, more or less, take her powers and use her maybe for evil. And so we get to go on this journey of discovering why she doesn't have wings, because she doesn't understand at the beginning. She has to learn that along the way. We get to go on this journey of how her powers come to be, because she does step into her powers. That's part of the synopsis, guys. It's not a spoiler. She's going to step into those powers as she's learning more. And we get to watch that evolve, and we get to watch that grow within her, because she didn't have that from a young age. It was trained out of her, and now she has to learn as an older Thumbelina. And so we get to really see her step into her Thumbelina powers. Her name is Tommelise inside of the story. It goes back to the original story, and she is a Thumbelina. And that is the title rather than a name inside of this one, which is really, really fun. And so inside of this story, we are creating a new reason for why she doesn't have wings and how she can then function within her powers without those wings, because she does have to operate as a fairy, but she doesn't have the ability to fly. She can't get herself out of danger. She can't get herself up high to see things. She can't do a lot of different things, so she becomes dependent on those that can fly. Her sparrow friend, her flower fairy friend. She has to rely on other people to help navigate her and to get her to different places. So that adds a new layer to the story as well. Thumbelina Falls is available right now. It right now is coming out chapter by chapter on the Tapas app, but as soon as the book is done, it's also coming out in print format, because this cover is freaking gorgeous and I want it on my shelves immediately, but I am doing something with Tapas. So I'll link that down below for you. New episodes are coming out on Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 p.m. Several chapters are out already, and this will be out in book form in the not too distant future, but I gotta get through this thing with Tapas first. So drop your questions about Thumbelina and Thumbelina Falls down below. I'd love to get those answered for you. It's a really fun, interesting read. It is definitely on the lighter side than some of my other novels, so if you don't like all of the darkness that I do, there's still some darkness in here, but it is not quite as dark as some of the other ones. It's a little bit on the fluffier side. Not fluffy, but fluffier for me. So it's a lot that you can get into right now. Really fun, really interesting, and flower fairy prints. Come on, it's gonna be fun. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes, and drop your questions about my Thumbelina retelling now for upcoming episodes.